This
Right?
conference will now be recorded.
Okay. I think, Suresh, can we start or should we wait for anyone else expected to join? Hello? Uh, just give me a minute. Let me rejoin back. I think there's some issue with the audio.
This
Yeah, let
conference
us
will
start.
now be recorded.
Let us
Okay.
start.
Okay, fine. So in discussion to our previous sessions, let me, there's some part of on the business partner which yet to cover. So let me, so basically, we had discussed all about the configuration with regards to the business partner where we have a customer vendor. We explained the flow, how the customer takes vendor, customer is all getting triggered in terms of your business partner, how it hits the account group. We saw about it. Then we saw about the contact person, what configurations go behind a contact person. And there is something which I had to discuss something on the baddies part as well. Just touching base on the baddies. Again, it goes by your cross application components. Again, because there's, as I said, mostly we go by business partner under the cross application components, or if it's not business partner, it is master data synchronization. So you go to master data synchronization as part of your customer vendor integration, the business partner settings. Then you discuss. Then there are a lot of baddies. There are different set of baddie nodes that have been there. So when I talk about this node, one is basically the data assignment for the business partner to a customer vendor contact person. Again, these are all CVI components, which is all mapped to the CVI customer CVI custom mapper. So this particular baddie is about how you integrate your business bank details. So again, it goes on some, if there is any enhancement implementation that goes, they use this all standard baddies that are all available, which can be used whenever they are being used as part of the setup. And you have the respective baddie for your payment cards as well. They use a baddie whenever payment cards has to be integrated to the customer. They use the then data attachment when they want to have an address form. So that's when they use the address form for customer or vendor to BP, and they use it from the business partner to a customer vendor. These are standard 5 sets of baddies that are available as part of the S4HANA standard. So whenever there is an enhancement packages, they use this particular baddies for the enhancement purposes. Okay, so whenever you check any business partner address types, we create business partners, we create all these address types, right? So how to define the address types? So again, if you go by the cross application components, again now we go to the SAP business partner. This is baddies. This is standard baddies. Apart from that, now I'm just discussing on the address part of it. So whenever you check the address types when you create any particular business transaction, so because the address type and the standard address price are which are all relevant to the address determination that happens on the business partner. So how the address types are all defined. So you go to my business partner. Again, I go to my business partner, basic settings. Then you have something called as your address determination. Then you define your address types. So you have the different addresses. You have a standard address or shifter address. You can maintain the different address types in the system. So or you can create any these are all standard address types. Then you want any Z-ship address types that is there, you can maintain it in the system, and you can use this particular address type. These are all your address types that are all maintained in the system. Okay, the once all these address types are all maintained, Again, so whenever you create your business partner, so as part of your BP CVI transactions, so this specifically add some notes. As I said, there are some specific notes which link your transactions to creating your BPs. So there are specific transactions which have also been given where you can create a BP from a customer directly. So suppose if there is some case where a BP is where a customer is there, where you will have to create a BP from the customer. So this is a transaction. You can if you have a customer, so I can enter the customer and create a business partner directly. So then once a customer is linked, then I'll have to link my business partner. So again, once a customer, now we create a business partner. So suppose I have any customer, I'll have to figure out if there is any customer, because I don't have any customer currently, only as a standalone customer. Once you have any standalone customer, you can create a business partner, and then this business partner has to be, you can link your existing business partner to the customer, because that provision is also given. Because if you get a customer, then there is a provision wherein, but only thing is that you cannot create everything as an individual, because if the specific customer comes in and you have specific customer which you want to create a business partner, you can create it. Then you'll have to create the business partner whichever you created and the customer along to the role. So I'll talk about the business partner role. Whichever role is there, we can create a business partner to this, because this all for the business partner. Same thing for a vendor as well is all applicable. So FLBP C1 is the where you can create your, where you have a standalone vendor, you can create a business partner and you link and you can link your business partner to the vendor. FLBP C2 is a transaction where you create a role, where you create a business partner and link it to the vendor through the specific role. These are all things that are been that have been used as part of your thing. Okay, so when you have all the configuration of the all the
sorry.
Yeah.
In what scenario we will create a business partner and link to vendor? What is the scenario we will do?
So suppose if there is any, if suppose for example, when you're doing when you're bringing in from third-party system, some customer is there from a third-party system, right? When you're bringing only a customer, when you have only a customer, so you're bringing that customer a customer table into my system. So you have the customer number. So this customer number cannot be used only as a customer, right? In that cases, I create a customer, I create a business partner with the customer and link it to a business partner role. So when you're talking about a new implementation, if there's someone is using some Oracle ERP, in that cases he'll be using some specific customer. So you can bring that customer here, then specifically, but you cannot do it for all, because again it's a tedious task. If you try to do for every customer that is there in the existing, specific one or two customers, if it is there, if you want to create a business partner with respect to the customer, there is an option still that is given in the system where individually one or two customers can be connected to a business partner, and business partner can be linked to the customer through a business partner role.
So right? Here this customer will be also a vendor.
No. See, customer will be a customer. See, what I shown you is specifically two transactions now, right? So when you see here, I think you got FLBPD1 is a role which you create for a customer, right? And you trick, and FLBPC1 is for a vendor. Specifically two transactions which I showed here. FLBPD1 is for a customer where you create a business partner from a customer. FLBPD2 where you link your business partner to a customer. FLBPC1 is basically when you create a business partner from a vendor, and FLBPC2 where you link your business partner to a vendor.
Okay. Yeah.
So there are two
so when I link a customer as a vendor, customer role as vendor, right? So the same number will be.
No, you cannot link a customer role as a vendor. See, customer either can link to a BP or a vendor can be linked to a BP.
Okay.
So I cannot have a customer and vendor a same number, right? Because there will be a conflict, because when I create a sales order, the same vendor number, same number cannot be going for a customer as well as for a vendor, right? I cannot create the same because I cannot create the same thing I cannot create a sales order with the same number as well as purchase order with the same number, right?
That is a concern.
That is again that will lead to a lot of inconsistencies in the system. That's the reason such sort of provisions is not at all possible. So again, you will have a customer number separately, because there is a there is a number assignment specifically for a customer. Simultaneously, there's a number assignment specifically for a vendor, right? So based on the number assignment which has been there, it picks up the number ranges and it creates a customer, right? In this case, what is happening is, suppose I have a customer number, I will have to generate a BP number, right? I have a customer number which is brought in. That with that particular customer number, I can create a BP number, right? That's why the provision is given here, but not necessarily everyone will be using it. But specifically, if there is any situation where you have a customer wherein it has to be linked, it has to, with reference to a customer, your vendor, a specific BP has to be created, there is still a provision in the system, is what I'm trying to say. Because a lot of people are asking, because some customers, if I have a customer, only a customer, again, I cannot go and create a BP in my system and bring in as a BP, right? Suppose, because why I'm saying this, when I showed you that new implementations, right? See, normally what happens is you use this customers, vendors, and then you bring in and create a BP here, right? I told you in a new implementation, you bring it through any RFC calls, or you bring it through any IDOCs, you bring it through an LSMW, you can use any of those tools to bring your customers and vendors into the system, and you can still create a BP in the system. But again, this cannot be done for every customer. Again, there will be a job that will be scheduled for you to create all the customers to vendor using the specific program, right? Using the specific, when you talk about this thing, using a specific program, but specific one-to-one case, you can use this particular transaction, is what I'm saying to say. Specifically for new implementation, not for a system conversion process. Specifically for a new implementation, you can this, because there's a specific screen-based program or a GUI-based program based on which your entire you can use this particular transaction when you want to specifically use this particular customer to vendor. Okay. So once we have done all this transactions as such in the system, so basically we need to check whether all these transactions, all the CVI mapping, all the contact person mapping, whatever we created is all fine. So that is when they run one more report in the system. Sorry. So even from the functional side also, we can do a check, because whether all these things are working fine as such or not, we can do a check in the system. There's a pre-check upgradation report that done. So pre-check upgradation report, whether in that case, what are the BP roles that are assigned to the account group. So every customer BP grouping must be available. So all these things, pre-check underscore upgradation underscore report. So whether there's a CVI link, whether there's a CVI mapping, contact person mapping is there, your direction from the customer to BP is maintained. 1 minute. Gradation. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So it gives you all the CVI link, CVI mapping, contact person. Predominantly, they do these checks. Whether the CVI link or the contact person mapping is all done, they do this. That's when they go ahead. So whenever you have a BP conversion where to check all the customers and contact persons have been converted to a BP, that's where you have a CVI link. Your customer vendor link has been established so that all your customers and vendors are converted to a BP setup. They check this particular. So further you drill down. So you get to know, see, you get a green signal where you have a customers and vendors, because here you have all the, because when you have a green, otherwise it will throw up in red saying there are some issues. Again, you'll have to go and check if there is any issues. But since it is green here, so that means to say we have a very good, we have a complete link of a CVI link, CVI mapping, and a contact person mapping, whichever is there as part. Otherwise, when you have a red, you click on this particular thing. So CVI link has been established. Otherwise, what are the issues, right? With regards to that, it will be throwing up in red. So you'll have to get into each error descriptions, and you'll have to further check if whatever is the setup there. So then once we are done with this, then specifically other report, CVI upgrade check resolve. Okay, upgrade check resolve. Okay, basically when you talk about a CVI upgrade check resolve, so this report gives you all the information with regards to, so what are the customer to customer supplier to BP, or a BP to supplier customer, what are the CVI when you check and display the results. it gives you all these things. See, everything has been there and everything has been activated. There is no customizing error. All customizing is fine. So once you're done all the customizing, so I told you, right, initially I open the screen to show you. So you have all the whatever we saw as part of the configurations. It gives a direct link here. You can directly use this particular report, but normally they will check this report after all the configuration is done to check if there are any synchronizing errors that comes in. If there are no synchronizing errors, this is a report that they check to find if there are any synchronization errors that comes in or not. So again, they go for a they execute once. If there is any synchronizing errors, they go for a synchronization. They go and check in a synchronization cockpit. So the transaction is MDS underscore load underscore cockpit. They run this particular transaction. Once you have once you run this transaction, you will come to know, because you always have a customer business partner to a customer. So you have a business partner to a customer, business partner to a vendor. They'll normally maintain this. And with regards to that, so you have what are the queue names, what are there, because this is all the master it thing for the, because when you have always a business partner to a customer, you have a queue name and what are the processes that are running, what if there is any mapping, because you can, because if you want to do any particular grouping wise, also you can do it. What are the, whether you want to include any specific values, then you want to, so you want to have anything that you can enter it here, then you can still execute this particular transaction and see if there are any synchronizing errors. If there are any synchronizing errors that comes in, they go into check and check if what are the synchronizing errors that comes in. So once you have all this thing, then you go and monitor all these things. So with regards to, there are any specific errors that will come in, it will give you all the status with regards to what are the status whenever you go on. 1 minute. So it gives you entire monitor tab to check if there is any issues that comes in. It will all be displayed as part of your monitor tab. Normally, this all your, because you have, see, all the synchronizing for your mapping contacts, for your legal forms, industry sector mapping. So your mapping product. So we did all this configuration, right, for an industry specific setup. So all these things, once the configuration is done, that's when they check this particular report synchronizes your customers, vendors, contact person that is assigned to the customer, contact person that is assigned to a vendor, and even it syncs with your system landscape. When you have an ERP, existing ERP system where ECC is converted to SAP S4HANA, so whenever it has to be replicated from your CRM systems, because sometimes you'll have to integrate from your CRM systems as well, right? In that case also, it replicates from your system. So after the CVI sync is happening, like what are the customers that are linked to BP, vendors which are linked to BP. So your customers and vendors are merged as one BP, right? Your customers and vendors are merged as one BP, and all your contact person which is linked to a BP, contact person with regards to customer is linked to a BP, contact person with regards to a vendor is linked to a BP. All these things is all done, is all checked as part of your synchronization cockpit. So your synchronization cockpit gives you a whole set of information that comes in. And so where because once you are done with this, there is one more transaction that they check. Once this is all fine, master data MDS underscore PP O2 is a transaction where they check what are the post processing of it. So when I talk about a post processing, so if there are any errors, specific errors are there. So when you run this particular report, so if there is any specific errors, for example, for this particular customer, so your number range issues are there. They go, so whenever after the conversion, right, they go to the number range setup, then they check what are the issues that comes in. See your administrative data. So what are the processes? So it gives you all the information with regards to, because some specific business partner which you have created, customer number is not within the interval. So you get this information, then you get into the business partner to check where exactly the issues are. So to check and resolve it, because not everything will be completely. So there will be some specific business partners would have some issues. This particular reports, this is a post processing phase, right? This is the last phase when you do your complete BP migrations. So the last phase is basically post processing. So in the post processing phase, that's where they run this report, they run this particular transaction to check if there are anything that comes in as part of your specific setup that is there. So once you have these specific setups, that's when they go and check that and check if there is anything that needs to be resolved further. Okay, so that's where you get into the specific BP and check where exactly is the issue is. Then check where if there is anything specific when the customer number range is not in the interval. So all this, not everything will have a similar issue. Specific if based on the issue, you'll have to go get into the particular business partner and they go and check what are the details with regards to the setup here. Yeah, when you check here, so you have all the administration data, all this information, what is the software component, so what is the business process. When you talk about CVIC underscore 03, under which business product has been created, it is CV underscore 03 is always a business partner to a customer. Business partner to a vendor is basically CVI underscore 04. They check all this information, then they check whether all these entries are in line with thing. Then once you resolve it, again you run this report. Once they resolve it, again they run this report to check if all these things once whatever is red has been converted to a green set of so that's where they run this part. So this is one of the report that they run, and again SC38 they go and specifically one more report as part of your CVI mapping underscore BP underscore CUST underscore vend. So here, once this report is run, they check what is the whether you want to have a business partner, whether the business partner from a customer, you'll give a particular number. So something. So whatever business partner that whatever the number, whether from business partner to customer mapping is done, they run this particular to check whether the business partner mapped to this particular customer. They run this report to check if there are any issues with regards to the synchronization. So complete so once you're done with this, then they again go back and check if there are any errors I'm talking about. They again go back to the pre-check upgradation report and check if there is anything error which gets converted to a complete set of thing. So that's when they use this particular transactions basically to run and check, because on the functional consultant we can run this. This is not a something where only we'll have to depend on technical consultants. We can run from functional consultants perspective, because these are all basically comes under functional consultant role, because these are things that we double check before we give it to, before we hand it over to customers, and before it's all done in the again in the landscape when you do it right again in the same development, quality testing, all this entire landscape of what you use, we do it and we double check before we push it to the production. From our end, we make these things clear. So when you talk about this, because once you are done with this, the specific tax categories also comes in. So when you are doing the tax categories, because when you are creating general master data, it takes all the region wise and it calculates the taxes, right? So how all these taxes are all configured. What are the tax number categories that are all configured? So when you go to SPRO, SAP reference IMG, cross application components as part of SAP business partner, basic settings again. Then you have your tax numbers. Then you maintain all your tax number categories. So once you maintain the tax categories, the tax categories normally will be normally you can do whether it's a duplicate check or not. So whenever you have a tax number which is there as part of a customer vendor, this tax number is particular. So whenever you create any particular entry, because all this tax categories, right, will all be stored in your SM30 transaction in a specific tax view, because there is a view that maintained based on which all this tax categories are all getting calculated. So if you want to check if there is any duplicate check on and off for the particular tax category, that's when you can activate that particular check for the tax category as such. So these are the things that we normally do. So yeah, so then then based on the tax jurisdictions, so we define the tax structure of the tax jurisdiction codes, because whenever you create your business partner, it basically checks the region and your tax jurisdiction codes gets automatically populated in the system. So how that entire set of tax numbers or tax types and tax the jurisdiction codes are taken is basically what has been maintained as part of the standard setup. If there is any specifically, you can maintain it as well. You can maintain it as part of the tax category setup in the system. Okay. Is it open? some issue. It's not opening. Let me stop the transaction. Open a new session. Okay. So again, the tax jurisdiction code, again, that has an inclination to the finance as well, right? When you talk about tax jurisdiction code. So when you talk about the tax jurisdiction code, it goes by a financial accounting and global settings, taxes on your sales and purchases, basic settings, specified tax structure for a tax jurisdiction code. If there are any tax jurisdiction code structure, specifically if you maintain it, you maintain it. Also, everything can be maintained as part of your business partner as well. Let me check if that particular setup opening here. Cross application components, business partner, basic settings, tax jurisdictions. Yeah, so you can maintain any tax jurisdiction code. So whenever you create your business partner, it basically takes your tax jurisdictions, and then it forms and it in line with the addresses, it basically comes to pulls out your tax jurisdiction code. So that's where whenever you create any business partner, your VAT registration numbers that all come in is all based on the tax jurisdiction code that comes in and feeds the particular data into my business partner generic data. So whenever you this is how the entire tax jurisdiction is being maintained in the system. Okay, so coming to then there are specifically country specific checks also that is to be done. That configuration is done. It goes by your again SPRO. In SPRO, there's NetWeaver settings as well. When you talk about an SAP NetWeaver, then you go to SAP, then you go to the specific general settings. General settings. Under general settings, you set the country code checks. You define all the country codes, or you set specifically country's code specific checks. So for example, if you talk about specifically about an US region, specific what are the postal code lengths. See, everything is based on what the region that you select. That's when this particular country code checks. That is at the NetWeaver gateway level. They go and specifically configure all those things as part of. So you can come to know where exactly, because if there is any specific changes that needs to be done specifically to the company code, you can copy this and you can create your own setup, and then you can further create this particular setup here. So that's where you maintain that, and so if there's any, that's what I said, if there's any specific changes, it can be done at the specific settings here. So this is all with regards to the BP, because all this configurations what I said is regards to the BP. And I want to touch base on something called as your master data management. See, when you talk about a BP, there's just an understanding about a master data management. I'm not sure how many people would have come across your MDM systems, your master data management systems. I would like to touch base on that part as well. Let me show you. Okay, let me touch base on the master data, because your BP configurations, what we discuss is all about the BP configuration. I want to touch base on something called as your master data governance, because you had your master data MDM that was previously there. It was all MDM. your master data governance is basically it's again a tool that's coming from SAP. So it's basically a next generation of master data management. From 2020, you will not have any more further master data management. It is only master data management is completely replaced with master data governance. So when I talk about this, so whenever you're converting your ECC to SAP S4 HANA, so so one thing you should understand, there is no conversion from master data management, because again this goes on a separate licenses. So whoever is having a master data governance, it's not a replacement. You say it is completely getting absolute. This MDA master data management is getting absolute, and it will be only master data governance that will be can. So whenever why we create a master data, suppose I have a customer, right? So customer, because a customer comes from different systems. It could be from an ECC system, or it could be from existing some S4 HANA system itself from to the specific. And if it's or something, it could come from your CRM systems, right? You have a CRM system, or it could coming from a retail system, or it could be coming from a transport management system. So your customer or any products, right? Letter information can come from. So how will you decide as to what will be that master data that will be resided in my system? It's coming from various systems, right? So how will you know? That's when the master data governance, is basically, so we'll be deciding as to how this entire thing will be implemented in my particular system. So previously, what was the difference between your master data management versus your master data governance? So master data governance, basically it's a centralized again. So your centralized master data governance, basically it is a centralized master data governance. Here your master data governance is basically based on completely your BRF, business rules framework, is completely is controlling your entire master data governance. So it is, and again it is based on your NetWeaver business client platform. It is based on a NetWeaver business client platform, wherein here if you see the programming languages that are used were basically your C++ system. And now here in master data governance, all the entire programming is all done in your ABAP stack systems. So your ABAP stack systems, which are integration with your web services, iDocs, everything is there as part of. And the integration, which is all happening through a process integration. And here there is no PI. There is no PI that is involved in this master data governance system. So your master data management is always a separate system. Here you have an option where it can be kept as a separate system, or it can be co-deployed. So when you talk about a co-deployed system, it can be kept on top of your existing system. So it can be separately kept as well, or you can deploy it on your existing system as well as an ECC add-on or an SAP S4 HANA add-on. You can maintain it. Okay. So normally when you talk about your master data governance, so that's where the login through the master data will be through your NetWeaver business client. NetWeaver business client login. So based on which whoever is authorized to get into the NetWeaver business client, the basically whenever you have, for example, because I create a material, then the request gets passed. Request undergoes a review. Then it undergoes the approval stages. Once it is approved, it gets into the different system. It could be your S4 HANA instances, because there are a lot of instances on your S4 HANA system, right? Instance 1, instance 2, instance 3, you can have multiple data. That will be there as part of your master data governance. That's where this master data governance is gaining more prominence now in the market. So I said the deployment models, right? Deployment models as part of the master data governance. There are two set of deployments. One is your co-deploy and your hub deployment. So co-deployment, as I said, I have my SAP S4 HANA system, or I can put my master data governance system, and I can pass the information through any specific RFCs or iDocs. I can use this whenever the data has to be. So when you talk about a hub deployment, what will happen is, so I'll maintain an S4 SAP S4. Specifically, I'll keep a master data governance system. I'll not deploy it on an SAP S4 HANA system. So I will be having specific SAP S4 HANA system. So I'll have individual SAP S4 HANA system, which will be linked to your master data governance system, specifically for SAP S4 HANA. So that master data governance system, so that will be that will replicate the information across. That's where you don't have, this is a co-deployment. This is completely it's based on a hub and spoke model, right? You have a hub and the individual spokes on which your SAP S4 HANA. This is basically, that's where your hub deployment comes in as part of your master deployment. Okay, so So because there is always a versions, because version 9.0, 10.0 different version comes in. It's not that just I can upgrade the version of a master data governance as well. It comes along with the version. For example, yeah, 1709 comes with 9.0. Next, I cannot directly under 1709, I cannot go and upgrade my master data system to 10.0. It comes along with the next version. For example, 1809 would come at 10.0. So when master data governance system upgradation happens along with the version of your SAP which you are implementing as well. So how that master data governance? So this is how their entire set of master data governance systems that are all being used. So whenever I see any master data system, how it actually works is, suppose I can bring in from a master data management system as well. It can bring from a third party system as well. It can bring in from an ECC system as well. These are all called your source systems, right? These are all called your source systems. These three are source systems. And basically, again, it goes by your any of the ETL tool, extraction transformation. For example, your business object data services is one of the extraction transformation stream. So based on which they basically get the information into the particular system. So they work on something called as your inform streams. Inform streams are basically they check the data quality of the system. Once the data quality system, it undergoes something called as your data quality management, where they clean the data, they enrich the data. When they enrich the data, it basically, for example, your pin code, street name, if there is any duplicates, they remove it so that the data is very clean and it is directly, then they upload it to my master data governance system. So your master data governance system. So they use all these things, basically all these ETL tools to move all the information. So this is how your entire master data system is all being used as part of this SAP S4 HANA structure now. Your master data system is gaining more prominence now because it is because you have multiple integrations now. This will be the time where they use this MDG systems, and again the skill sets for an MDG will be specifically people who are basically MDG consultants, specifically MDG consultants, or if there is any above consultants can move to the MDG stream as well, or if there is any WebDin Pro custom consultants can move into the master data setup. So previously, because you have something called as central finance, predominantly where the master data will be prominent is, so they have something called as a central finance system, CFIN systems that are being used as part of the SAP S4 HANA. So your central finance system, because when the data comes from a EC system or it comes from a master data governance system or your any existing EC system, so all these things will come in ECC1, ECC2. So I have my different EC system which comes in. So that's where you're they will be bringing from different systems into the SAP S4 HANA system. Then finally, based on your chart of accounts, how the central finance system will be linking to your chart of accounts, your general ledgers. So you have multiple general ledgers. That is where your entire set of systems will be using this master system as part of the setup. Okay. When you talk about the data models that will be used as the master data system, your finance related information will be brought in. When you talk about finance center, your cost center information, your profit center information, your general ledger information. Then part of your materials, what are the material level details that can be brought in, or else your customers or your vendors. So your customers and vendors, when they bring it, they bring in as a BP, or else they can bring in here and they can convert it to a BP. So because you mastered a configuration, mastered MDG systems, configuration is quite complex here. Because it's not so easy, because a lot of configuration goes behind your master system, master data governance system. So that's where your master data governance system is that's the reason specific consultants are being used for the master data governance systems, because especially when you do the data migration, your BP migrations, all those things, that's when this master data governance systems play a major role in this entire set of BP migrations. Okay, so that's where this I just want to touch base on this master data governance as an overview, so that you get an idea of what this master data governance, why this is gaining more importance now, with especially in this integration process as such. Okay, so when this is where your entire master data governance system comes in. Okay, because this is all about your business partner. uh, yeah, any clarifications on the business partner, anything? Because I'm done with the business partner configurations. Any clarifications with regards to the business partner?
No, Ram.
Okay. So now before next from the business partner, just an extension of business partner. What you're doing is basically a credit management. So when I talk about a credit management, so whenever because your credit management is basically previously it was all as part of your FIR components, right? FI and your account receivable components. It is there in as part of your ECC. Now with this credit management, it's all gone to something called as your FSCM, financial supply chain management. The financial supply chain management basically it has four sets of. So when I talk about SAP financial supply, which is having different set of components, we basically which can be leveraged either it could be an independent way or it could be a combination of components. So they have something called as your credit management. They have your biller direct. They have your dispute management, or there could be your collections management. So these are four components as part of your FSCM. So when I talk about specifically about credit management, so basically all the information with regards to how the external credit information can be brought in. So how you categorize new and existing customers on based on your credit, basically where you can help, which helps in faster decision making. So basically which allows all the organizations to monitor and control all the credit risk from a central system. So whenever there is any credit management that is happening across the distributed landscapes, right? So how do you want to have the credit management that is getting controlled? So basically, this is where your credit management. When I talk about a biller direct, so when you talk about the electronic payments, electronic billing, so where you integrate your customer and your financial services. So basically, where it supports all the communication process, where when you're presenting the bills for any clarifications or any reconciling accounts, or if there's any on all billing related activities, that's when they use this biller direct. Specifically when you talk about a dispute management, so basically dispute management, if there whenever there is any disputes, right, basically all the disputes cases, all the financial obligations, customer financial obligations, so basically that's where they use this dispute management. So when you talk about specifically about collection management, so collection management basically supports all the evaluation, identification, cost component splitting, and if there's a prioritization accounts from any risk management perspective, and whenever there is any customer relations perspective, if they want to do the collections, so that's when they use your because all the proactive processing of all your receivables, process automation of all your large volumes of all your open items, everything will be part of your collection management setup. Okay, so when I talk about your credit management, so credit management is basically it's a predominantly a well-defined process, and which basically helps in collection process from the customers, right? That's where your entire credit management, right? Because your credit management was previously based on your master data setup. In your ECC setup, we had specifically FD31, FD32, FD33. All these transactions were used where you are maintaining a master data specifically for any particular customer, and then you are using it. So basically all the credit policies were all getting streamlined. Now why they moved it to a financial supply chain management is because they said if it's basically your finance related and it is all supply chain oriented. So they said let us not maintain it under an FIR component. They said anyways we have FSCM is not a new component as part of the SAP. All the other components were there, so they added this credit management component as part of this FSCM component. So your credit management, basically whenever you see credit management, is all controlled by your credit controllers, right? Your credit controllers basically are responsible for any controlling any bad debt exposures or any expenses that is happening, where they for maintaining any cash flows and for an efficiency in terms of the collections, right? That's where your credit controllers majorly work on your credit. So basically there's a term that they use in credit management finance specifically is DSO, day sales outstanding. So they use a common term where they so because when you talk about a data, because what are the how the efficiency of cash flows can be measured, this is where your day sales outstanding was being used. So this is where your credit management. So when I talk about your financial supply and credit management, so how different is this from an ECC setup? So I'll just give you an overview before tomorrow we'll be touching base on the configuration part of this. So ECC versus your FSCM credit management. So what differences that comes in? Because here you maintain a specific customer related. Here it is all maintained as part of your business partner itself. Again, there is a role UKM 000 is a role that they maintain specifically for a credit management role. So you maintain a credit management again a particular under a business partner itself. I can maintain a particular role. Then I can maintain what are the so for example, I'll just show you one credit management is also created. Okay. I'm taking one best practice customer only. I'm just showing you best practice customer. So here in this, there is something called as your credit management role. Okay, based on your credit segments. So here it's all based on a credit segment because the standard credit segments are all I created on C credit segment as well. I'll show you what configurations which has been done for the C credit segment. So you can create what are the limits. So you can create what are the rules. So there's a lot of rules, a lot of formulas that exist. So I'll be showing you in the configuration side, but this is all as part of your business partner. How it is all being used, how it's all being extracted in the system. It's all based on what rules that is all maintained. You maintain all these things as part of your credit management. The credit exposure, what is the limit that is defined, you can create what are the limits that are defined. Everything is based on your credit. This is all based on this a credit segment. You create a credit segment and the credit segment will have all the information with regards to credit management. So I go to my general data. Under general data also, when you are maintaining a credit management role, there you will be maintaining a credit profile. So credit profile will be giving you what sort of customer, what is the risk class that the customer is encountered to. So what are the check rule that the customer is bound to enter. So where you have all this specifically, you have maintained all this particular customer and what are the credit worthiness data of the particular customer will be maintained. Suppose now based on which now with this credit management and based on the limits that have been set for the credit for the particular business partner, now when we create a credit management, so I create a sales order. Even if you put it in quantity, it always say there is a credit segment against because it's all against the credit segment. So as a credit limit that has got executed, they want to still save it. If you save it, the order number will be, but again, it will be under a credit block. So as usually what you do is you go to your VKM1 transaction. Against this, you create it. This is a new thing where it is now what we created now. Now sometime back, what we created this is a new criminal. Then you go and release it, save it. Okay. So we'll have to realize that there was specific only one transaction which has been retained, and you had a lot of other transactions, VKM3, VKM5, all these things have been eliminated in the system. Only VKM1 transaction has been retained as part of this credit management, and all the other transactions, right? FD32, FD33, sorry, FD32, FD32, FD33, so whichever which where we're using a credit management, which all become an absolute function, because once that FIAR that moved to my FSCM component itself, or the entire thing became an absolute. All the component, all the transactions that was linked to the FIAR components have become absolute, and it is all only through your BP component that the entire setup. So you can create an existing BP. So let me check if there is an existing BP. Okay, this is my BP.
From here in BP, we have this credit management tab, and here only we will maintain. Here only we will maintain all this credit management.
So this is the existing this is the BP which we created, right? So this is the BP which we created initially when we did the BP, where we assigned all customer and vendor roles. Here I'm going to assign one more credit management role as well. So same BP, I can create my 1 minute. Let me show you. UKM 000. I told you that role, right? You created, then you create segment data against a particular. So you can create either with, or you can, I'll show you the credit segment, how it is all created in the system. So against the credit segment, I can define what is the limit. I can maintain my limit, increase basically I can. So basically then I can go and save my business partner. I can go in my general data, you'll have all the credit profile. So you can maintain what is the risk category for this particular customer, if it's a low risk customer or a high risk customer. So basically, how do you want to have the check rule? I'll explain to you tomorrow. I'll explain to you in the configuration what sort of customer I'm going to classify this as. So if there's any specific validity that I'll have to maintain this particular credit to, so I can maintain it basically maybe 1 year or 1.5 years. You can maintain it. So basically, then you can go and save this particular customer. So this customer, when you see here, business partner. So whenever you use this, whenever you see this particular customer is used as a business partner, customer financial accounting, customer suppliers, so everything is linked to one particular business partner here, right? Everything is linked related to one particular business partner in the setup here. You can maintain it and you can maintain it against your business partner. Yes, the same business partner. So the same business partner, general data. I go to my customer financial accounting, company coordinator. You will have a specific vendor, so you have a specific customer as such, right? So you can maintain a specific customer, a specific vendor. Under the specific business partner, you have this credit management as well. That's what I was trying to say. Then because it's all mapped under a credit segment, which all because the existing setup was basically we did not have any credit segment previously, right? We used to directly go to FT32 and then we'll have to maintaining the credit master. Now it is all mapped to a particular credit segment. Your credit segments gets assigned to my credit control areas. That's where the entire configuration level have changed from the time you are using your existing ACC to the way you are using your SAP S/4HANA. That's where the changes have all come in place. So one of the major differences it's all moved from just being a master data setup to a BP transaction now. On top of it, sorry. Okay, when you talk about it's from customer to a BP. So then it's moved from your FIAR component to your FSCM component, right? As I said, this is so because previously there was something called as a scoring, how the scoring rating that is all happening, that was not available as part of the ECC. Now a lot of credit rules engines have all been integrated. Credit rules engine directly a credit rules will get triggered for the particular customer. Basically, why they are keeping a lot of checks now is basically, and there are options where you can third parties as well can integrate their ratings, because now and future, when you see the customers validations are going to be even more, because all these things that is happening across, right? When you see all this defaults that is happening, so the bank level, so all these things, that now a lot of external agencies also getting involved. So how will they get the feedback? Because as a company, I'll be relying on what documents my customer provides, right? Because third party agencies, whenever we have a third party agencies, they have a wider reach in the industry, so they go and collect the rating and they rate the customers and they can feed in their ratings as well. That integration is also now there as part of your SAP S/4HANA structure. The third party agencies also can upload their ratings directly. So overall, I'll have my own valuation for a particular customer, as well as I can refer to the third party valuation, so I can decide how good is how credit worthiness is this particular customer, so for which I can extend in the credit, right? So whenever I find my rating is okay, good enough, and if a third party agency is not good enough, if I'm able to justify, if I get it justified saying this customer is having, he might be good to me, right? But not everywhere he might be a good customer, right? So in that cases, if he's defaulting some other customer, then this ratings automatically come down when it comes to third party evaluations. So in that cases, I can take a decision whether to extend the credit limit to a customer, or I can reduce the credit limit which has been already offered to a customer. That is where they go by this particular credit rules engine. And so that's what I said, because previously it was all happening through your partner systems, right? All your partner systems are using it. Now all third party systems can directly integrate to my credit information services that are there, because again, through XML based, it's all XML based credit information services, by which the entire information gets uploaded into my system. So it's all based on your, then there is something called as your workflows also can be triggered. Workflows also can be triggered as part of thing, but again, that workflow triggering, we're basically based on what requests that you give. Workflows will be triggered by your technical team. So workflow segments, because if there's any credit events, if there is any documented credit decisions, if there's any credit limit request that needs to be there, again, you can trigger a workflow based on the workflows approvals that it undergoes, based on the limits of, so it goes different set of approvals, and finally it gets approved and my credit limit comes in. That's where they have that this sort of provisions are there as part of the credit limit approvals. Okay, So these are all advantages that this credit management brings in when it comes to your SAP S/4HANA. One is basically it has eased the process by which right directly it has got integrated to my BP setup. The other part is basically which all this credit rules. So it basically ensures that my customers are credit worthy of my customer is upheld whenever I go and do a valuation. That's why the advantage is there when it comes to the credit management part of it. Okay. So tomorrow we'll just start the discussions on the configuration part. So just to give you an overview, I just gave you what this credit management is all about. So tomorrow I'll just show you what are the configurations, how the existing configuration was there in SAP S/4HANA to ECC to what changes, the minor changes, not majorly, but minor changes have happened. How that entire changes in the configuration level it is done is what we'll be seeing as part of this entire setup in SAP S/4HANA. Yeah, so I'll close at this today. If there are any questions, we'll continue, or else we'll close at this today. Tomorrow I'll be starting the configurations on the credit management part of it. Yeah. Okay. If there are no questions
from my end. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. There are no questions, then I'll close at this. We'll meet tomorrow for the credit management config.